The first tap of a conductor's wand. The first rivet in a mile-high tower. The master link at the genesis of the never-ending chain. The moment a single empty canvas meets a singular master stroke. There is no one thing. Because now, there are many. Because soon, there will be more. Because one is ever the beginning. Like the first link in an infinite chain, or the first rivet in the tallest skyscraper. The master stroke is found in the masterpiece. What will you begin?
Hello everyone and welcome to the 44th episode of World Blockchain Roundtable. I'm going to be your host, introing everyone today. Instead of Joe, we're going to switch it up some. I'm distant from den.social. My friends call me Dave. You're welcome to do that too. Today for the hosts, we've got Greg from Rivet. We've got Joe, the architect and founder of Dragonchain. Ross from Global Crypto Press. Satoshi Shan, entrepreneur and everyone's friend. He calls me Dave. My friend's name, and myself, which I've already introed. So quick update for last week's episode. The ownership tokens that we give out based on how many views the videos get when everybody shares them and things like that. Each host will get 166 lot, which are ownership tokens for the WBRT layer. Each topic contributor from last week will receive 23 lot. And we got through 7 questions last week. The theme for that episode was suggested by Eternal Mickey, and we're giving out lot to the people who suggest the topics and stuff too. So Mickey will get 23 lot. And just as a reminder, these tokens come with perpetual passive income, free edits in the layer, and governance votes. So like the things that we do every month to decide what to talk about. Speaking of, there is a GI in the layer. If you go look at the governance icon with a little gavel, you'll see a way to vote on the themes for April. So go check those out. The top 4 will be the themes for next month. How's everyone doing today? That's a pretty good intro, I think. Let's
nicely done.
A discussion on current events, talk about what's going on in the world, whether it be blockchain or just regular life, and see what's on everyone's mind. Joe, good morning. How you doing? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that. That was the first try at that. So it's basically that was a GI vote that resolved last week. So we did it this week. So anyway. Right.
Oh, was that resolved already? I hadn't even checked to see if that's already resolved.
That's why the rotation thing, right?
Oh,
no,
yes,
not the April themes. Yeah,
I
April
thought you were saying the themes.
Still going. We need people to vote on that. So we anybody who has lot in WBRT.
Yep, and anyone who has just an additional reminder, anybody who has suggested a topic that got hit, a question in there that we like last week, we got to 7 of them. All of you have lot. So if that's you, if you've ever participated and gotten in there or hosted or anything, then you can go vote on that now. You have a say on what we talk about because you are an owner in a real sense. A meaningful one anyway.
Yep. So I guess what current events is that what?
Well, let me go around the table real quick. Said hello to you. Let me say hello to Ross. Haven't seen you in a little bit.
Yo, yeah, it's good to be back.
I always enjoy having you on.
Yeah, man, this the hours of the show on the West Coast is a challenge for me. So I woke up early enough for once, so I ran the computer and I'm on.
I like being a Florida man for that reason, for sure.
Yeah.
We could always put out a governance issue to make it more timely for Ross to join every once in a while.
Where is
Anything
everyone
is
else
possible.
generally? You guys East Coast mostly or mid?
I am East Coast. Joe's over there. He's a Westie like you.
Pacific.
Okay, but you're a morning guy, I guess, huh?
No, well, no. This is when they wanted it, right? So
Okay.
I think we did something before where people were trying to figure out the best timing, and it ended up.
I got to get just back in the habit, and this is the first of many weeks in a row I plan to be here.
Fantastic.
Cool.
That's great. I always appreciate the different perspectives.
So it's
views and
super early there for you usually for this, basically.
Yeah, 8 a.m. I mean, I got another problem with going to bed too late. So you go to sleep at 4, you're not doing an 8 a.m. show. You know, it's just not happening.
Right.
Yeah, I'm like Ross, man. I literally go from bed to the chair here, and you know, honestly, this is I wore this shirt to bed. Shirt.
See, I'm a little more high maintenance, man. I gotta have time to like have coffee and do my hair and stuff.
That's
and, like,
me too.
you know.
I take an hour or two to get up.
Yeah.
Sean, what time zone are you in there in Texas?
Central.
And Greg, where are you sitting in the world?
Central also.
Okay, so we've got
yeah.
that spread.
Although my typical
for
morning
the
routine
US
is not
anyways.
as onerous.
Yeah,
I'm more inclined to jump out like a minute man and run
I
for it.
go to bed. Like I usually go to bed super late anyway because it's crypto. But
No,
Exactly.
But Wednesday night is always, a kind of a late night because usually like my time is my own, but Wednesday it's not until like midnight. We're like I'm cooking all day, we're eating, watching a movie, playing a game or something, and then it's mine like at midnight. So I have to like force myself to go to sleep, or there's no way I make it up for that.
You know what was a major effect on my life is when all the companies started leaving the U.S. So then pretty much I had no clients that had a time zone anywhere in the United States. So in order for me to join like a company on a Skype call or something, it would be like noon their time and 4 a.m. mine, And then,
Right.
I just said, screw it. I got in those hours as my normal hours. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's still kind of that way, but now you're starting to see maybe 25% of clients or so are back in the U.S., which is exciting to see.
So,
That's good.
Ross, you've changed your schedule to keep up with other people's then, to be more convenient. This is something that Joe brings up every now and then. That we should all just be on the same time globally.
Yeah,
You
I
just
did.
we should
Well, that is
all
in the
use.
news. Actually, it's kind of a good lead into current events, right?
Yeah.
But then just what, half of the world would be dark at
Yeah,
noon?
Yep.
like all those American vampires. I mean,
Yeah,
I
just
still
go to
think
work
I
there's,
get
at
so many. Good
You don't
night
think they just
texts.
changed their working hours to,
All my
okay, now
friends
we
are
work
waking
4
up.
a.m.
They're all
to...
texting me. I know you're going to
Yeah.
sleep now. Oh, why are you up so early?
I think we should set a new
We're
rhythm
in
for the
bed,
clock.
like,
I think we
just
should go
right
off
now.
lunar cycles for a while.
What do you guys think of the
Subdivide it.
daylight savings
Well,
proposal
I was
coming
about
up?
to ask that. They got rid of that now, right? That's like a monumental thing.
It's up for a vote.
I was wondering about that. My wife and I were talking about it this morning, and she said, yeah, they do that in Germany too. Like every year they talk about it and never do anything. So we'll see what happens.
I thought
I-
it passed. I thought it was over.
That's why I think if we converted to UTC, not only would we be able to communicate, especially because everybody's now working with people over the world now, right? It would just be, literally it is, it's 8:08 local time and 15:08
Well, I
UTC.
think- wasn't
to be
the reason
simple, it's
for
like,
it-
from 1500.
because we were
But then
in
the
an
companies
agrarian
could say,
society?
what's that?
Wasn't the reason that it was instituted was because
Oh.
we were in agrarian society?
Theoretically, I have no idea actually, because they say
Happened with
that.
farmers, right? So when
Yeah.
it became time to
But-
harvest, they had an extra hour of daylight.
Yeah, but it's the crazy thing, because how much does that make sense when, if you needed the extra hour, you would just get
Start
up
earlier,
earlier
yeah.
anyway. Why would it matter that, it's 8 o'clock, you have to get up now? That
Because
seems
government
very,
cares.
yeah, it's very
I only
odd.
know the Nicolas Cage theory from what was it, National Treasure or whatever it was for daylight savings time. So I don't know when it was actually put in place. It was before light bulbs, I guess, or what's the deal there?
I assume it was at a time when
How crazy
agriculture
would
was
it
the
be
biggest
if
cash.
that is like the biggest
you know.
conspiracy theory of all. Just take off with that. That was the first time government said, "Hey man, let's see if we can fuck with them.
And then they
Let's
changed
make
it.
this up and have the entire world change their clocks twice
Well,
a year." Like
that's-
that's crazy. It's not going to happen. We'll
That
see.
is literally the thing. They changed it again under the second Bush presidency. And
Really?
and yeah, they changed the because I remember my car, which normally would back in, it was like, it automatically changes it because it knows when daylight savings in. Nope. It's like, well, sorry. So I had to set it, and then when it thought, you need it to change now, it's like, no, that's no longer. And so like all the clocks were totally screwed up.
So that was kind of like
tried to
burned in
automate
or
it.
whatever. There wasn't an option for it. It was just part of the firmware.
Yeah. And so you think about how stupid is that though? Why not just have universal time, and then then a company or people can say, you know what, it's still dark out. I'm going to sleep in a little bit longer, and I'm going to start work. It would be a pretty simple thing to do, right? It doesn't
I
matter
think
what
you're
time
right
it is.
about that. Like locally around the world, you would still just get up and go to work whenever the sun came up, regardless if the clock said 1600 or 2100 or whatever. It would just be
Yeah.
your, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. It's like
Yeah.
summer and winter are different if you're in, like northern hemisphere
Australia.
or Australia.
Well, there is.
Yeah.
Isn't there a European? Because I know Ivan would always say Swedish summertime. He would always.
Time is such a weirdly local phenomenon, right?
I have a thought.
But we don't do it.
What
with
about
dates.
this? If this passes now, and daylight savings time is killed, I was talking about this with my son the other day. How no one does it anymore because no one has watches, no one really uses clocks.
Right, we just go to each other when the notifications
It's all done
go
now
off.
automatically with our phones, and everything like you're saying is software, so it all updates automatically. So but think about that. There's 2 times a year where the populace of the Earth is completely obedient to a central force.
Well, it's
and
staggered.
obeyed and did something, and now the
That's
action
only
is
US.
not.
Have you guys ever looked into? I gotta
People
derail
would
this a little
notice.
bit, guys. But have
Doesn't
you ever
happen all at
looked
once.
into loop quantum gravity?
No, it
or
sounds
read-
like
or
something
read,
I'd be into.
Yeah, that sounds cool, man.
Yeah, it's a particular Italian physicist whose name escapes me right now. Wrote this book called The Order of Time. It will deconstruct what you think about time. Like, this question bothers me now because it actually is an artifice about time that we have a lot of assumptions built into.
That is true. I don't know what you're talking about
If we
specifically.
really
but
thought
yeah.
about what time is, we could figure out a better way to measure it all together than clocks.
Well, time's weird to me because I always have thought experiments. I fantasize about being a fiction writer one day in the future, but I never do anything about it. But I always think about plot devices like gravity wells, where if you were to somehow if you were able to survive being in the center of Jupiter for a while, time would move differently for you. And the same thing as you approach light speed. If you think about
that's the thing. Time exists, but it doesn't.
Well,
so even if you were in that gravity well, time is different for you, but in the universe, it still exists the same way.
Yeah, right. So
think about this though, guys.
Time travel forward is possible, just not back.
This is
okay.
not current.
When you're in the shower and it's
events,
really
I guess.
hot, steaming, less gravity, less dense matter, time's moving a little bit differently for you. The shower actually makes time change around you.
Well, so does the since this is current events about daylight savings time. So does the movement through space. So if you look, there's actually a world record that has recently been beaten for time travel, right? For the longest time traveled forward in time. And it used to be the previous record holder for the longest time on the International Space Station. That is now the new person who just stayed longer. I don't know either of their names, but technically they have moved forward milliseconds in time because of how long they were.
How crazy would it be if the guy's
literally.
name who broke the record was the same name as the Italian physicist?
That would be nuts. Though I don't think it's probably Carlo Rovelli, which is actually the name. Which I just see.
But
what book was it that Elon started the Martian colony? There's another one there that there's some strange. Oh, and by the way, I think that the proposal was to make daylight savings time permanent.
Yeah. I was
So
hoping
it is
you would
a
bring that
shift,
back
It was a
right.
victory for the night owls.
And those people that were on the ISS, I would assume that's somewhat like a leap forward, where they just lost a few milliseconds.
Yeah.
I mean, they're orbiting the Earth
It
so many
kinda
times
sucks, right?
in a given period, right?
Yeah.
Those guys are actually seeing the Earth a
They
lot.
lost that sleep essentially.
That
It's
little bit of
the
sleep
biggest,
gone.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
don't do that.
You guys know about the twin theory? Like, it wasn't an experiment because we can't do this. But if twins are born, one of them goes for a year at the speed of light out, and then for a year at the speed of light back in. When that twin returns, they'll be different ages.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can do the same thing with cryo if we ever figure that out, right? You put someone into
that's just
to cryostasis and then send them at high velocity. We could shorten the amount of time.
See, now we're thinking about
to the
time in universal standards, like cell degradation time, where that's like, because we measure time basically by our sun. but
Oh.
it's not. That doesn't matter.
There are
to
different ways
who
of
else.
passage of time, right?
This is the best current events
versus
thing
Here's
ever, because
here's
it's
something that you
literally
guys might be
talking
interested
about
in.
the current
I can't remember the details. You'll have to look this up, but it's at least something to throw out there as an interesting topic about this. Why do we use 60-minute hours and 12 and 24 hour days? That they don't know, but they believe it was because two separate cultures that were bordered had two different time numbering systems. So one of them had a I can't remember what literally different base numbering systems that
I think it
weren't
had
10.
a little bit to do with the fact that they originally created the clock to synchronize more easily and more precisely when they started having trains run between towns. Like that's when you first had to have time that made sense.
Yeah,
in
but no,
different
but
villages, right?
but they I don't know, look it up. There's something there because it was an interesting fact of least common denominator between two numbering systems that they just ended up
you think
using
on the
for the time
proposal,
system.
So it was like the whole thing was a conversion from metric to
Well, but it
crown.
wasn't. It apparently wasn't decimal. I think it was a base. I can't remember. There were two. It's an odd thing, and the reason that it was applied to time, I think the theory was that it was because they were actually scheduling stuff or communicating about time between these two cultures, but I can't remember.
that makes sense, and I would hope that whoever's debating the proposal and how it should go.
Oh, those geniuses!
I hope those geniuses. I hope this is the conversation. I would think that you would need to look at, why do we have it in the first place? Where did it come from? Do those things still exist today? Do we still need that, or does it make no sense? But I have a hunch that people aren't talking about it that way.
I guess they probably
think
don't keep an easy record for outsiders to poke in.
It's more interesting to think about why the people that own those geniuses have told them to do this. That's really the thing that's always most interesting to me. Is like, there's something else behind there. It's like, why did this come up? Because it's
Right.
something that, anyway.
It makes you wonder, and that's like I am a connoisseur of conspiracy
Get those guys
theories.
on World Blockchain Roundtable talking about this. You guys,
Conspiracy theories,
that's
yeah.
that's the whole thing.
Yeah, search banned TED Talks and listen to that one. That's
Really?
It's a fun, similar kind of twist and turn about how we think about weights and measures.
Yeah,
Guys,
standards
It's
are
weird that
crazy.
British people use stone. I mean, my friends were telling us, "Oh man,
Oh, yeah.
So before we jump into topics,
And
I actually
was
have
like, wait a minute, you're serious? That's what you really do? Yeah." I was like, wow.
I have a current event I really want to direct everybody's attention to. If you guys
Let's do it. What you got?
There is kind of this weird trend where people are talking about token curated lists again. And some of the writing that I've seen on it kind of suggests that people are thinking about creating reputation connected to some kind of pan public key sort of curated list, like self-sovereign identity plus token curated list that is just signed.
Like a
Equals
social
potentially
credit score?
linking your identity across multiple accounts as a requirement modularly to interact with a set of projects that decide to adopt it. So it's a way to potentially put modular code out there that you can easily get people to import bans and blacklists, which I think is kind of alarming.
Can you rephrase and simplify that for a second? I'm not sure I got exactly what you were talking
So
about.
there's this thing, this sort of thing that people made earlier on in Ethereum land that hasn't been popular for a while. And it was called a token curated registry, and it was just basically a way to create crowd improved lists over time.
And can I say so essentially an address or a public key based reputation that if I put up a smart contract and adopted this system, I could effectively keep anybody who's blacklisted out. And it's
Right,
like you might
because
say, there's a reason for it, right?
You wouldn't be giving them permission to back out of being part of the token curated list,
Right.
And it's
Right.
not done with tokens; it's done with just straight signatures.
It's
so they
bad.
can do it rapidly and frequently.
And in my opinion, if you look at Bitcoin colored coins. And it depends on where you're at, how you pronounce colored, right? But
Colored.
that colored coins were at first seen as this, oh, it's some amazing new way to do things. And I believe it came largely from, even at the time, that it was a small adoption set of banks and bankers or people who didn't want Bitcoin to take off. They're like, well, if you can color the coins that are bad guys, then we can maybe use it. And the community, I think, overwhelmingly said no. That because essentially it was going to say that if I bought a coin that was somehow dirty, I now can't exchange it, which is not good because I had not done anything illegal. And this is kind of the same thing.
Yeah, this is a fungibility question, and it's something that Greg and I talked a little bit about previously, because Greg, you've been diving deep, researching more into Zcash, right? And I've been doing kind of the same with Monero on that side of things.
It's working really slick these days.
You know what's
it's impressive.
So is Monero. Monero is working fantastic, and I've even found a genuinely interesting privacy coin that forked off of Monero called WildNero. It's a Doge inspired. It's like they are to Monero what Doge is to Bitcoin, but it's an actual privacy coin, and they've done some cool stuff with mining. But what I wanted to say with colored coins is I saw something getting some traction in the Monero forums where there's an interest in introducing colored coins to Monero today, which I think's weird, right? Because Monero is a privacy network and it's kind of like maximum
There's still people you
fungibility.
can identify, right?
Maximum fungibility
still
and all that. But
go
it
talk
does
to
have
them.
it does have compliance tools too. Like there's audit keys and there's also.
I'm curious as to why we're doing this, frankly. Like, I don't understand why we haven't taken a good look at this huge opportunity to revamp anti-money laundering rules to actually be something that works instead of something that just manages to make the school for
my opinion on that
compliance officers more expensive.
None. It's all broken though. There's nothing
Stop
about
and
the
actually
system.
rethink how we do it, and maybe actually stop criminals instead of only help the government get tax fraud selected.
The same reason that the SEC has the rules that it has for accredited investors. It does not make sense to any citizen. Yet those rules are long held. Why? Did they protect people against Bernie Madoff? Did they protect people against any of the? No.
What's demonstrable is that it doesn't protect the investor. It does not protect the citizen.
All it does is preserve their ability to be prospectively punitive with your
getting
digital
scammed out of
assets.
all of their money.
You can do that. I mean, Ross, you can do that at the gas station. You can buy a roll of scratch-offs with
guys. Whoever holds all
the,
whether it's the VCs or the people who invest in the startups who get the early access to new ventures, those are the people who essentially use lobby powers and other influence to keep normal people out of those, because they would have, and you look at crypto, they would have a massive, overwhelming competition where their billions are worth nothing compared to everyone else.
Well,
and
somebody is probably starting up a vendor right now to go take this idea and pitch it like they're a government contractor to any organized body that would take it, right? Somebody's doing that because there's a market for it. So ultimately, we're going to end up with having to deal with these lists coming around. And I think people should be aware of it.
You think this is related to like the?
I don't know much about it yet.
Like the UTXO blacklisting from CoinJoins and things like that, all sort of the same conversation, or is that a different thing?
I think it's more like, do we want reputation systems?
Right.
Yes, I think we do, but I think they need to be
inside of a single layer of a network, or are those more appropriately second chains?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think it has to a well designed reputation system would have a lot of ability, free, like individual ownership as installed. That is, and it could be much
already.
Yeah,
Google. Think of anyone who's just a total piece of shit. Google their name. You're gonna find out other people know they're a piece of shit.
But Google, but that's the problem. Google manipulates that right now. You could look up.
There's companies that you can pay to make that disappear. Yeah,
and it depends upon political figures in particular. You can look up Trump
Right.
versus.
Well, it's always,
Well,
it's
I think
always been that way.
the
And
real
remember-
danger to me is
remember
it's
when,
modular and it's on a blockchain. So you have these records permanently once they're
when,
in, and people can call it like it's a fucking JavaScript library.
when Yelp
bring
came
in
out
the blacklist, we're going
and
to use this.
and
because
regular
otherwise we're gonna
people
get
had the
shamed.
ability to control the reputation on a because there was always the Better Business Bureau, but that was so hard to interact with. But
It
Yelp
was
came
controlled
along
in time.
and it gave power to the individual, and of course they got drunk with it, and Karen was created, and Kyle, I mean, I remember I was in my friend's cafe, and these people were just awful people, and they were like yelling at this girl that was making a panini, and then they were like, this sandwich is too big, and they're like, I'm going on Yelp, and I said, dude, I'm gonna go on Yelp and I'm gonna just talk so much shit about you. I said, I took a picture of you, I'm gonna put it in there and just talk about what a piece of trash you are, how ugly your wife is, how dumb you both are. I mean, I was so angry because they were the worst people I've like ever. It's like stuff you see on the internet, and that were like I was face to face with these people, and but they had so much. They got this little bit of power, and they're like, I'm gonna go on Yelp and I'm gonna just destroy you. I'm gonna talk about what a bitch you are. I was like, and then literally, I was like, you're complaining because the sandwich is too big. I was like, you bought the big sandwich. It
You got to
says,
take all that with a grain of salt, man, because I know every time I've gone on a site like that, it's because someplace pissed me off. You know, like people
yeah.
are something
You
like
have
10 times more likely to leave a negative review than they are to
You have to use the
make
Olympic
the effort to
rules.
give
Anytime
someone
you're
a
looking
opinion.
at those reviews,
Right.
you have to knock off the two bottom ones and the two top ones.
well, I think that they.
I think they're fun to
that
read
they
because you get
lost
a sense
its
of like what a
power.
person's reflective traits are.
I think it's lost its power though because,
Yep.
like the word, rape, the word Nazi, all those.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, I got totally raped.
They are just words,
Yeah,
ultimately, right?
but it's really bad, when certain things, like that's one thing about sexual assault. It's like Cuomo. I mean, he literally put his hand up a woman's shirt
Right.
under her bra, and then that's completely different than talking.
Well, I mean,
There's a harassment, and then there's assault, and once you get into assault, I don't know why there was press conferences. I mean, it's like, come on, dude, and the sheriff is like, no, arrest isn't totally off the table. I was like, dude, it's assault, and then people were calling it harassment.
I will tell you. I will tell you. You know who controls you when you realize who you cannot criticize, right? And when you find out who doesn't get arrested, so it's just like
just don't do what Julian Assange did, right? Actually, by the way, we should probably all say congratulations on the wedding. Sorry you didn't get any wedding photos.
Oh yeah.
Hope that this belated wish reaches you belatedly.
Seconded. Yeah, congrats, dude.
Yes.
I wanted to ask Ross something real quick that you said a minute ago. I wonder what you think about the difference between. And I'm sorry, Sean. Are you done, or am I cutting you off with your topic? I know we were on a whole different thing just now. I just realized that you were in the middle of something, Sean. Are you?
We were. I forgot what I was talking about.
Oh, fantastic. Right. Cool.
Yeah.
So, Ross, a little bit ago, we were talking about the idea of like a qualified investor. I don't know what it's called in real life, but you got to
Accredited,
accredited. You got to be, reasonably financially secure before you're allowed to invest in private startups and things like that. But then at the same time, if it's state lotto or if it's like scratch off tickets or something, you're all, or if it's Vegas, anyone's welcome to blow their life savings and, you know, their inheritance on scratch offs and lotto and Vegas and all that. So
Right.
like, where does it make sense to
That's
say,
true, but I
you
think
know,
people get into that, and there's kind of like a, you know what you're getting into. It's so obvious. There's not really that much to figure out. As where
Yeah.
you talk about somebody investing in a company, you can confuse them, you know, in so many ways as to why this is a great idea and why they
Ross,
should put all their money into it.
coming from the legacy,
You can't do that same
financial
pitch
system,
with going to a casino, you know?
dude. There is
Right.
so many.
Well, I mean,
rules. There's so many rules that you have
It's
to
true,
follow. There's
but
so
there's
many
probably a better way
ways
to
that you have to present
address
stuff.
it.
You have to have so much stuff in writing. I remember, you know, back in the day, we had to have portable printers in our car
Right.
because certain things, when you would present them to a client, had to be in writing. It
Right.
didn't matter if you were in a barracks on post, if you were, you know, at someone's house in the country, you had to print that out. It had to be in writing. So there's so many rules that really are to protect the consumer on that.
Right.
You really can't be in that space and just rip people off.
Well,
Hester
right.
Pierce,
And I think
Hester
what you
Pierce
got
has come out and said the truth. The truth is the only way that you can really just call the accredited investor law what it is to say you're stupid. You're too stupid to invest your own money.
Right.
If you weren't so stupid, you would already have $2 million.
And can I say something that really, really highlights the issue is that currently, I believe it's 2 million that you have to have 2 million, or you have to make over like 250 a year or something like that, and you have to prove it, whatever else. And you know, you could say, oh, it's an old rule that they didn't have a way to measure that this person was educated or whether this person understood what they were doing with their own money. But the problem is they're proposing. It's a total BS answer because they're proposing to move it to 20 million. Why? Because too many people got rich in crypto,
Right?
And they don't want us. They don't want any of the people that got rich in crypto that all of a sudden
we're supposed to stay
accredited.
down. They don't have room enough for us on their private islands.
And or inflation. There could be inflation too, but it's an odd timing, right? So I don't know. It's total BS, but.
Well, I mean, there's actually the thing that bothers me about this one too. This is another situation where we could fix something better instead of just try to fix something as fast as possible, right? Like, obviously, nobody who wants to do anything other than fuck over consumers is pro fucking over consumers, right? Like, that is that we can talk about that if we want. But like, everybody knows what a scam project looks like: a anon that runs away after a very short period of time, never comes back. Right, somebody who figures out a rip off of somebody's NFT sale on OpenSea. These are our scammers, and they're fucking around in the financial system in a way that is really fucking obvious. We have all of the tools to see these things in new ways. We could literally just have a website that needs to have certain connection points to things about your smart contracts that could be measurable and calculable. We could solve the problem with the fucking open source code library instead of all of this regulatory bureaucratic crap. Yeah. Like, they don't see that the system was designed to make that so easy to be sure nobody's getting ripped off and use the web.
It's pathetic that the regulators and or, you know, and I get somewhat understand it, the regulators have someone else paying the way. They're not I think their goals are not honorable. I don't think they actually believe that they are protecting the consumer. They are following their rules, which are set by whoever the hell they're set by. Yeah, it's not necessarily Congress. And so I think that it's pathetic that in our number go up BS that we've been doing in crypto, instead of saying, look, here's a standard way to do X. Here's a standard way to do Y. If someone is attaching X and Y and then they have Z, which is their own thing, you would at least know that the money will be locked in various things that you could do in crypto that would solve a lot of these issues with rug pulls and everything else.
Right.
And yet they aren't used. And in some cases, best practice, the tokens are locked. I can prove that I can't.
We do have to look at the totality of the circumstances too. If people are okay acting like individual VCs with their things, what right do we have to be paternalistic in 2022? The last time these rules were written, the only technology they had to communicate was newspapers and fucking analog telephones. Like you could send a telegraph still.
Yeah.
That's why I like.
There's 5 of us here, and the only like we had on the episode was one I put 4 days ago. Digital Food, we have 114 people watching, only 3 likes. That sounds like there's bots in the house.
Thanks, Ross. No, that's all. That's Crypto Press, man. Thanks for the bump there.
It's people who aren't registered, but it's embedded on a global Crypto Press.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Hit the like. All of y'all should hit the like button, and I know you hit it.
And by the way, that thing that shows the top, and I don't know where you're watching it, that's the YouTube. It doesn't show the Twitter side. We get constantly, it's like, why do you guys even have this show? It's like, you only have so many. It's like, first of all, it's just the Super Happy Show. It's just a freaking update show. But we do get a lot of views on Twitter and elsewhere, LinkedIn, right? But
since you brought that up, I noticed since I'm always working on Den and things like that, I do a show on Wednesdays that's almost exclusively everybody's submitting, just like this, right? People are watching it there, probably submitting questions there. All the views that we get on Den even though I use an embedded YouTube video, the views from the embedded sites do not get counted on YouTube, because I can go back and look at it and it'll have like not even as many people that were on the show who were involved, kind of thing. Yeah. So the numbers thing is like, that is another thing that companies use to their own advantage. Think about the competition between Facebook and YouTube, right? Facebook doesn't like the YouTube videos on Facebook. They want native Facebook videos and vice, and they're going to show things that, I don't know, it favors them, right? Oh, the numbers are on our side. Oh, we get the numbers over here, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Victor saying, hey, from Turkey, but it was 6 o'clock in the afternoon there, so it's good for him. And the number go up thing, I don't know what show it was this week that you did, Joe, but you did by yourself. There was a happy one or the Den one.
Yes.
But you talked about how no one's, about the technology and all that. But I think that because you've been around longer than me, and I've been around a long time. So the space was a lot more tech people, nerds, and people that got into it because of the technology. Because that's what, it's like, oh, I could make money in this. That's why I put my foot in the water. But then, oh my God, now you go down the rabbit hole. And now there's so many people because it's become so easy. And still there's a lot of, it's not as easy as it should be, but it's so much easier that people can really just kind of come in, drop some money and forget about it.
It's those people you were talking about from Yelp. They found crypto.
Well, it's beyond that though. And my point on that was that the number go up has essentially, in my opinion, robbed some of the actual value in time. It's still going to come, but the focus and concentration is on number go up. So you have a ton of would-be adopters who don't understand the fundamentals. And that's why it's so powerful when a government like Canada tries to steal people's money, because all of a sudden the normies say, wait a minute, that's what Bitcoin's about. And that's when they start thinking, oh, I'll get some, because it's not about, yes, there is a component, which in my opinion is more organic. It's like like gold versus fiat. It's a very easily understandable thing that one is very manipulated, and the other, if you're holding it in hand, can't be manipulated. Which crypto, if it was held on paper like gold is still as BS as fiat. And that's an economic advantage of crypto, but that's just the first use case. And I remember that was probably one of the most exciting things for me about Bitcoin when I first saw it, was that, knowing I'm a history guy. So I know that when the Spanish galleons came back from the New World, they crashed the gold market because they were freaking full of gold. And Europe had never seen such an influx in such a short period of time. Gold market just floored. And you could have a very similar thing when Musk and his grandchildren start pulling down asteroids, from the, basically start mining the
asteroids,
heavenly bodies. And so
they'll probably build a ring. I think that makes more sense.
Yeah, well, and yet with crypto, it was a programmable issuance of inflation. I mean, it was, and that's why I when people talk about CDBC, sometimes it's misunderstood. I would support one if it was designed in a way from the people and not from the central bank,
Right.
which is very unlikely. But and I guess the theory is that
because that's what one of the C's stand for.
Yeah, well, but and that's, I think you probably need to rework the acronym, but that if a small country wanted to become wealthy, they would literally make, and it is essentially they might still control it, but it would be transparent, and the governance would be controlled by the citizenry, right?
Right.
So
I mean, and
no,
right
we
now
don't want
too,
inflation.
right? I mean, think about this. We have leaky sanctions on Russia right now. What are we going to do next? The same thing we always do, Pinky. Go to secondary sanctions. They're going to start pressuring people who aren't pressuring Russia.
I'll tell you how to
with
predict
sanctions. It's coming.
What's coming next there
Right?
is whatever is most likely to start a war, because they want a war.
Yeah.
The sanctions were intended for a war, and now he's going to be charging rubles for oil to Europe, and Europe's going to have to pay in rubles.
The whole fucking thing is coming apart at the seams pretty much, and we're watching it in slow motion.
It seems like it's interesting. I kind of see a future of, maybe even, two global, and I'm not an expert in economics, macro or micro, but it seems like there's an even Joe Biden said it recently. He said there's a change happening. I forget which press release it was, but he says a change happening that comes once every few generations. You know what I mean? And whether or not somebody told him to say that, or whatever your opinion on Joe is, I don't really care. But it was interesting to see the president get up there at a press conference and say, "Hey, there's some shit coming. Everything's gonna basically be reset, and it's a change that only happens every now."
To me, this is one of those moments where you just open the books, unclassified.
Well, what I was going to say, Greg, is it looks like
everybody's interested.
What I could see is the Chinese digital yuan and the CBDC, whatever we come up with in the U.S., being like right now we have a dollar global reserve currency. So what if we have a dual reserve, a dual reserve currency with like Bitcoin in the middle as a liquid layer or a settlement layer between the two? Would be interesting, right? Maybe cryptocurrency serves as a bridge, like bridging Ether to Polygon, right? Just bridge over.
I still think there's a lot of hope for the original idea, right? Like that we just sort of can't hear what they're doing anymore because they're so far away, and we have a parallel system.
I'm hearing a lot of people talk about that now. Recently, my buddy Bozak brought it up a couple weeks ago that how stable coins are pegged to a fiat currency. The very thought of that is dumb. And we're talking about a stable coin that's pegged to Bitcoin, that's settled with Bitcoin. That would make so much more sense. And I've always said that I look forward to the day when Bitcoin is valued at zero, because it's not measured against the dollar. The dollar is worthless.
It'll be priceless.
Well,
what would a stablecoin pegged to Bitcoin do differently than just owning Bitcoin?
Right.
Allow you to transact without fees.
It would be worth so many satoshis, is what we're
it'd be a way for them to fractionalize.
We still have no idea how much volatility too with crypto has actually been coming from violent fluctuations in dollar liquidity and value because of supply. Like it's been swinging wild. There's a weird correlation you can watch between when the Fed starts doing excessive reversing. Like there's way too much linkage between that. I don't believe we're not just watching the market flux in terms of the dollar's purchasing power.
And by the way, for normies, I mean, if people talk to people who are interested in Bitcoin, I mean, it's the easiest case right now because you can say literally, you need something. You need to get some Bitcoin, some Ethereum, something, because it is one of the most obvious cases currently that weak men bring hard times. That's happening. Yeah. It's obvious right now. No one can, and you can look at you can look around the world and you can see that that's what's causing all of the mess we're in right now. So anyway.
Well, I think there's a room for a slight variance. I think what's too many people off the hook for kind of running it into the ground extra hard.
Oh, don't get
after
me
they set it
wrong.
up.
The day of the rope is coming at some point. I just don't know
Not
when.
rope, but
right?
just like accountability for it. Like we can't just let this one be a thing that we
Well,
all.
I
pretend
think
is
if
not that big of a
if you
deal
look at
later.
world history, though, leadership that has brought down entire nations, depending on the speed, nasty, horrible, scary things happen. So,
And like the amount of inflation that happened, and the amount of, I mean, seriously, if they had to explain to the American people and the world how much the systems they set up helped them pump money into the stock market from the get go, when they untether this from inflation and set a rolling target,
I
they
think
just
planned the whole
a
fucking
few
thing.
real quick.
Like I think during the pandemic,
kind of burden of proof
when
is
the
already on
government
record.
bailed out the airline industry and other things, people were like, "Whoa, how is that a free market?" You know what I mean?
Sorry.
They should have. This should have
It's
collapsed.
And let me cover.
And
I
then
say the
the
whole fucking
good,
thing.
like
I mean,
Southwest and other
just the
good
Fed policy.
companies that weren't constantly on the news and viral videos of them beating passengers and pulling them off. Those people should have been able to, because it's not like the planes disappear. Those good companies should be able to come in, buy up all the real assets for cheap, and then they grow. They're rewarded for being a good company and treating their customers right. And it didn't happen. People saw that was a big wake up call, I think, for normies, that there isn't a free market, that it's a zombie market. And like Joe was talking about, I think with the things that happened in Canada, especially, and the fact that it was Canada is like the best thing. I think it's even better than if it was the United States. But it had to be Canada, this massive Western polite country that did all these horrible things. That was such a huge wake up call. But it wasn't like, people weren't scrambling, like, what can we do? What is there? It was immediate. It was like, oh, they did this, crypto. Oh,
Yep.
they did this, we got to use crypto.
That's
We
when you
should
started
use
seeing
They
things
took
like
and turned the same financial unplatforming systems right into their outwardly targeted sanctions that sort of went down to the level of individual Russians.
I don't know what you
picked out
saw
people and said you.
I don't know what you saw,
that you ever
Greg,
really hear about happening before.
from on your end over there, but I know with Monero, from what I was seeing, the Cake wallet had just a spike in downloads, and then node runners were like, "Holy crap! Can everyone please run some full nodes because bandwidth is getting crushed right now. Everyone's trying to download the blockchain." And it was after that Canada thing happened. So even though it wasn't in the news and it wasn't spread around, you could look at, people talk about on-chain metrics and on-chain stuff for speculating and investing and doing trades and stuff like that. But there's political data there that you can look at too and reference. And something else that you were talking about, because we got to, I guess, go into the show here. But something you said about,
you kind of already sound like social media, so maybe we're already doing it.
well, yeah, you were saying the parallel system you're talking about, right?
Right.
To segue into the topic today, which is decentralized or blockchain social media platforms, how do you organize among strangers on the internet, on Earth? How do you organize a parallel system in a government controlled or a government layer controlled social media platform where you can't even speak openly, much less organize an entire parallel system?
How do you eat an elephant?
Right.
Is the answer to that question.
So right. So today's topic is sort of related to that. It's blockchain social media, which is, if you don't know, it's social media just like you might be used to, except designed with newer tools that were not available whenever the concept first landed. Kind of if you want to call it the Web3 version of social media or the blockchain version or whatever. But decentralized and or blockchain-based social media. I think that's a pretty good place to install governance tools and organize things. And that's what we're doing on DIN. So it's cool that this is maybe it was good that I hosted today, because I guess I'm the DIN guy, so let's talk about social media. I was hoping to get someone on this topic today from Twitch, which is another, I haven't looked into them much, but somebody's been talking to me about them recently and they seem to be really into it. And but you know, we can't always line up who we get on. So I thought it would have been cool to have two competing projects on at the same time. That would have been great, right?
Twitch is an interesting.
You know, we need to
interesting,
do polls here.
platform.
I'd love to know what
Not Twitch, but Twitch
social
with an E.
platforms people primarily use.
Oh, well,
Like
Twitch is
outside of
interesting.
here.
You know, my kids have a gaming channel, and they recently been doing a lot more on Twitch, which is centralized. But people use Twitch for a lot more than just, you know, video game streaming. But it is mainly video game streaming. But there are huge influencers that make a ton of money off of Twitch, and the sex discrimination was massive in the beginning. In the beginning, it was open and free, so a girl could stream video game, you know, topless, and she would make a killing. I mean, just everyone, you know.
Right, it was sort of like the first unofficial OnlyFans.
So they stopped that, like no nudity. But then, you know, you could be not nude, but in a tiny bikini, and it was, you know, then still no male streamers could get any viewers. So now they completely killed that too. So you can't even, so girls cannot use their attributes.
That's too bad.
Or guys, I guess, if you know.
Guys can answer back by being funny.
So that's, I mean, I have feelings on that, because it is censorship in a way. It is, and then the whole thing about, you know, making women, you know, dress.
It's just a bad incentive. There needs to be a different incentive structure in the.
Well, I think the conversation there. I think the conversation there is worth talking about. But let's see if anybody brought that up in the questions, because I do want to get to that, because we only have you know, so much time on the show to get through them. I think overall the conversation there is probably about the fine line between you know, not having censorship but also not allowing exploitation,
right?
Because you never know who's driving the person to use their assets to make money to sell on the internet and that kind of thing.
Well,
so that's
like such a government stooge, man.
Well,
yeah,
Dave,
well,
but
it's worth talking about.
It kind of sounds like it, but when you think about Den being run by its community, that kind of takes the sting out of the this is a counter-libertarian policy argument, right? Like, it becomes kind of okay if everybody has a live say in the moment.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting thing too, because when you look at decentralized media platforms, there's a history, right? Like a lot of us went through what happened with or witnessed it from afar, sometimes luckily. What happened with Dig, what happened with Reddit multiple times. Reddit's been a freaking shit show forever. Dumpster fire level activity with their CEOs. Stupidity reigns supreme on Reddit. That's what Reddit is. And, you know, that's why when we started looking at it, that we kind of were for Den, we didn't focus on, like say, I was very excited early on with Steam It as an example. It's like, here is someone trying to reward for good content. But the problem was the algorithm was, I think, totally broken, and they didn't maybe even care to implement it in a way that would actually model the behavior. And so that's what we tried to do. And, you know, luckily with Dragonchain, it's flexible enough, we can kind of adjust and, you know, experiment, essentially. That's what the whole thing is. And so I know there are a bunch of new ones out there, right? But I think the big, at least for me, and this is what I would suggest to other people to look at, is what are their stated goals? Are they looking to reward people for providing content? Are they looking to reward people for evaluating content? That's why it's been it's not easy to explain, but the fact that the best explanation for Den, as an example, is that if you are evaluating, you're essentially participating in a prediction market. We don't want you to evaluate, I love that, right? We want you to say, is this content great for that community? And then if everybody's doing that, and the people who do just say, I love this, I'm going to put a whole bunch of energy in, it just works. It's organic. And yet, if you want to capitalize on, I'm better at predicting this, then you can just make all of your money that way. And the fact that market is what drives the actual rewards for the content. So the rewards, it's not an arbitrary thing. It's no consensus, and market size determines that your post or your reply got this much in rewards. So I don't know.
Nor you guys
The marketplace
designed this system with the moving parts for these mechanisms already built in as part of it, right? And that's not what regular social media and Web2 did.
Right.
They bolted on the monetization after.
Yeah, because exactly, and that's what even Reddit tried to do with their Reddit. If I need something to complain about, I go Reddit every time. If you look at what they did, I mean, one of the big pieces that we put in place for Den, the DAO itself, is that the founders only have 1 out of 3 votes. So essentially, the owners of the layers and the creators of content can have coalitions with the token holders or anyone else and overrule the founders entirely. And that's the whole point of it, that essentially, if you wanted to come and attack our DAO, you not only have to consider the token economics and, potentially risk a lot of value in trying to take over something that you want to destroy, but somebody with enough money could do that. But you would also have to come in and be a good denizen and effectively follow the behaviors in order to have the influence. So it's this whole interesting thing.
Right. I mean, you wouldn't be able to just show up and mob it, because there's platform level accountability that can be handled with community governance as well, right? Like there is always a super action and a super veto on what the community does not want. But like ultimately, you get people into a habit of creating great things, and they tend to like to create great things on their own.
Yeah.
And
I think it's been proven.
Will get started and take off.
We have new people that were never Dragonchain related that come in specifically because, let's go on to the questions. But that's the whole point of it. It's a behavior thing. So,
truly.
So I'm sorry to cut you off there, Joe. The first question's pretty good. It's hard. It's a hard question right out the gate. So the question is from Y'all Weird, who, if you don't know, wrote the Enter the Dragon song that we play on our outros for all of our Den shows and stuff like that. So Y'all Weird asks, what are the legal implications regarding posting copywritten content and earning rewards on it from it on a decentralized social media platform? I know I've got strong opinions on that, and I know that a lot of people have differing opinions on that. So we could be starting a pretty good debate here. But I won't go first. I'll see if I can round out what the conversation ends up in. So,
I could go first. I mean, there are there are certain cases where a hybrid platform there might have some effect. There are things you have to know about the copyright system as well that have changed over in my lifetime. Early in my career, when I was in a band and we would often steal materials for posters and things like that, that it didn't matter because the copyright law was only effective if I made money from this thing where I used someone else's owned copyrighted material. And it is copyrighted and not copywritten. I think that's wrong, but that's what it I think legally is. But anyway, since then and I don't remember who. I think it might have been Disney related or one of the Disney senators that changed it to now it doesn't matter. There's still a fine. There's still all the takedown stuff that they put in place from all the Hollywood influence where YouTube and everything else is affected. That if you use this, it doesn't matter. We own it. You can't use it. And yet there is still fair use, like news, commentary, and periods, like how much of a song you used. It's crazy stuff. It's all arbitrary, based upon whatever Hollywood wanted to influence.
It's not totally arbitrary, right?
I think this is I'm gonna segue into hopefully Greg here. That I think the answer is it's going to lead to what is essentially a DAO where those Hollywood senators can't be bought anymore. Disney or whoever else controls those senators is going to have to buy into these DAOs, and they will literally try to manipulate the DAOs to affect the rules because, let's say library starts, putting up and they realize it gets a huge adoption. And so now we can't affect it because all the adoption went from YouTube over here. How do we do it? They're going to have to buy in. They're going to have to buy control somehow.
Right. Well, and I think really there are probably 3 things that are worth pointing out here. Just from like my perspective as someone who has looked closely at this type of law and studied law for a little bit. It actually protects something that sort of feels like it ought to be protected most of the time, except in particular cases where it's kind of abused. But it was, again, one of those systems that we designed when we didn't have any better solutions than this certification round robin kind of thing, where whoever filed it first in some jurisdictions was the claimant who won. And sometimes the person who was the first to perfect it, i.e. show up with the proper form, get it filed and get the return receipt and file that somewhere, with a witness. It was really heavy duty, but it also sort of protected this thing. Like, nobody wanted to see someone out pretending to be, Walt Disney at the time Mickey Mouse was created, because it was pretty fucking amazing. Like, nobody had any idea they were going to be this terrifying multinational juggernaut. It was just like this guy made an animated mouse. It's fucking awesome. Protecting that felt right at the time, to a certain degree. Like him not wanting somebody to just take it and put a mustache on it and call it Mackie Mouse, like that'd have been fucked up. But at the same time, what's quite wrong with that?
Well,
is there really a fair confusion
years.
argument? Like, maybe we should consider what the world would be like if we just let it happen, if we just collaboratively create it, and build in the reward systems in the background. I think that's one of the things we had a chance to do.
You did have copies anyway. It's just
to the viewer's question. I think one thing that has to be noted on all of this before, to discuss it accurately, that right now, I think what he has in mind does not exist, where you could, upload a movie and just, on a social network that you are incentivized for the views or something, and you're going to get a huge cut because you were first to upload this massive blockbuster movie that just hit theaters or something. Boom, you're rich. Unfortunately, the way things work now, even if there is a video site that does have a cryptocurrency to it, look at how that file is actually stored. And you're seeing that we're looking at a hybrid of centralized and decentralized, kind of all in one, where like the front end, where the people have their profiles and that the currency is exchanged, that'll be decentralized. Where the file's actually stored, that's going to be the centralized servers owned by the people who created that site, and they are going to take it down as soon as they get a notice for it. There's nothing that uses something like coin storage with a decentralized social network on top of it. I haven't seen that yet.
Well, I think it does. It does kind of exist now. It's just that, just take the word crypto out. It's just currency. Right. Like, I've been seeing this on Facebook a lot. These videos, which someone just took a movie from the 80s or whatever, and they spliced together it's basically like a synopsis of the film.
Yeah.
This kid gets picked on in school, and then he goes and...
yeah, I've been watching those. Yeah, it's like the whole movie in 15 minutes.
Yeah, the whole movie, it's like 5 minutes, you know what I mean? And then in the end, he beats up the bully and everybody, and the mob's involved. But they speed the voices up a little, and it's stretched out a little. And I was thinking, because if you put something on YouTube, like, their bots pick it up right away. And I was wondering, is that why they do that? Is that because I want to know from Greg, because he's a lawyer, if that helps to get around the copyright thing.
Nothing really helps to get around the copyright thing. There's nothing actually connected to blockchain about it unless you write some kind of binding agreement into the blockchain about it.
But the fact that they changed the original thing, because they're making money on it.
No, that does talk. To get around the digital fingerprinting, you can speed it up, pitch it down. That works.
Yeah,
it does actually work on YouTube too. You just got to do it a lot more than some other sites.
Yeah, right. I do that too, and sometimes they helpfully provide the multiplier of what they use to speed it up or whatever, so you can just do your own post processing to slow it back down. Like and I've watched stuff that's maybe a quarter of the screen, so it doesn't show the whole frame and stuff like that. So
I was answering more from the standpoint of like, you'll violate the law no matter what you do.
Well, and there will be.
There's no way to do it that takes the legal responsibility.
Well, that's
why it's still illegal. Yeah,
we're still just talking about the U.S. by the way. So what's the protection of content if I'm not in the United States? It's a different question. And the fact that a DAO, or at least the decentralization, we could say, look, here's this content, here's an NFT that proves that I own it, here's the license. If you want to modify it, you can. if you want to do other things. And yeah, people could download it anyway and upload it again, but you would have the reputation base that, look, I'm Disney. Obviously this is ours, and anything else is, it doesn't matter that much.
We really, it's funny to me that we messed the show up, where we don't have as much time to go over the questions because we were talking about time.
Right.
It seems ironic to me.
Well,
we got carried away there.
Yeah. I do think there's something important to point out here. I think that crypto presents an opportunity to do this, like, actually legitimately better, and still protect the good stuff, but also be more free with licenses. You should be able to buy a song license to do whatever you want with it from a fair market, instead of having to know somebody who knows somebody will get that company to return your fucking email, right? Like,
yeah.
I've tried that.
Similar.
Well, I think one of the biggest overall, what I wanted to talk about, and what I thought would be one of the coolest things about this subject, is how social media has changed the world when it comes to basically how people make money. I mean, so many people. I make money from social media. My kids were like in college, like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do YouTube. That was it was like a legitimate thought. You know what I mean? They knew they started their channel before me. I started my channel because I didn't understand that people were paid to do content. I just thought, why is everyone a Neo fanboy? Why doesn't anyone talk about these other 50 projects? I don't understand. Why are these people just talking about Tron? I didn't understand, and that's why I started my channel. I was like, I'm frustrated. People need to know about this project. Look what they're doing. But
thank you, sir. Thank you.
But so many people, I mean, they have an Instagram, and they use it to make money. And now, with the censorship, it's a way for governments and these other entities to control the masses, and especially the younger masses.
Yeah.
Where
censorship also gives us a perverse incentive to go after each other for whatever offense we can, for competitive reasons unrelated to whatever we're.
Well, I think also
either pissed off about or pretending.
Also, the average person took away a lot of the advertising money of. I mean, look at just a regular, CBS, NBC, those networks. Totally, they're becoming dinosaurs. When you look at Rogan, look at traditional news sources versus these fringe news sources. You can see, and advertisers see, way more people are watching this guy. And there's that asshole on CNN, from CNN. I remember.
Which one? Not being specific enough.
I forget his name, but he was like the White House guy under Trump. He was the one that hit the woman's hand, and then they said he didn't hit her hand. That guy, Acosta, I think it is.
Oh, yeah.
This was years ago. This guy, YouTube journalist who did like good work was following him because he did something terrible, and the guy was like, "Hey, why don't you answer your question?" He's like, "Yeah, what network are you with?" He's like, "I'm independent, blah, 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 on my channel." He's like, "Oh, you're in your mommy's basement?" I mean, he was making fun of the dude. Yeah. He was like, "Oh, you do this from your kitchen table." Just totally rip it into this dude. And then like a year and a half ago, I was watching him. He was on because of the pandemic, but he was reporting from his kitchen table. And it was like, I laughed so hard. But because of social media, love you too, man. See y'all later. Everything has changed. But with that change comes this ability now for the powers that be to completely control someone's income.
Yep. It's a re-centralization.
Yeah,
they lost the 4 networks, and it's like, oh shit, we have to figure this out now. It's like, oh, Facebook, Twitter. Yep. Okay. We did.
Which is crazy because really we could actually probably recognize that we share a lot of the same goals.
It's on the question.
To kind of
continue on what I was saying and about the question. Like, someone creates a meme. It's just a guy, just a gal. They're like, "Hey, this is funny," and they put it out there, and it explodes. And then people use that, and they make money off of that person's work, which they didn't. Their goal wasn't even to make money. Their goal was just to, hey, this is funny. I want to put it out there.
I'm going to tell you. Can I make a really quick prediction?
Well, if we're being
that?
balanced, that it did help their popularity too.
Can I make a really quick prediction on that? That, in my opinion, a properly designed modern advertising system would be based literally around memes, and it would be very much open, where you would be able to track a meme through. I made a proposal for this, and there was a little bit of work on a hackathon on it once, but no one's quite gotten it yet. I'm like, dude, that's the future of advertising, is literally to have an assembly line where people are making the most concise representations of ideas that will go viral.
Right.
I've seen that like in sci-fi movies, like as a joke.
Ongoing chat.
It's going to happen. We're just held back by ourselves. We are our own worst enemy. Okay.
I want to round up that question so we can move on. And I'll just, the only thing I really have to add to it is there wasn't a whole lot of discussion about how to, we talked about how all those things exist. Yes. No, but how do you solve it? And the answer to me, I think, is the DAO ownership of a platform. And I got asked recently, I do some stuff locally where I go out and I don't say shit about crypto or blockchain. And I literally just talk to people about value and concepts that are, familiar to them, right? And one of the questions that I've gotten a couple of times has been, and this is all in the context of den.social, what I'm doing there. So one of the questions that I get pretty, reliably is, and especially where I live, is what are you doing about misinformation? How do you combat the problem of misinformation? And this is, I think, related because it's sort of the same solution to how do you combat fraud, or how do you combat bad actors in a social community. And I've just gotten to the point where I say we use humans, right? We don't have an algorithm that somebody with a particular bias wrote.
We resist all urges to try to control it with a one-size-fits-all solution. We give people tools to do it for themselves.
We have a representative collection of humans that is a global audience that also has a weighted voting power depending on their reputation and their involvement in the system, and everybody gets a say. So I think the solution is to put it back in the hands of people with brains and take it away from the algorithmic auto-ban stuff.
I think the only solution we can ever hope to arrive at that's pretty useful is one solved by the wisdom of crowds, right? We need a crowd of fucking developers trying to make solutions that they think will work. And if they work, then you've solved the big problem. But without you in numbers, we will get to stuff that doesn't work that well.
Well, Dave, that used to be what the system was.
Yeah.
It was all about reputation. But honestly, in all honesty,
without
CNN
the tools we have today,
CNN should not be here. It's been caught so many times lying, and it used to be so important. Truth, when it came to the reputation of a news organization, especially, was so massively important. Like, I trust Ross more than I do any large, news corporation. Just period.
And I think that's a symptom of when it was built, when it was put together.
I came to the realization years ago, and it shocked me, that I trust a terrorist organization more than my own government or the news. Anonymous said something, and I was like, oh, I believe them instead of. And I was like, whoa, what just happened? I believe these terrorist hackers. This was like years and years ago what they were classified as, versus what was coming out of the propaganda machine. And it was a big realization, because we went from when Cronkite said something about Vietnam, and everyone's like, oh, the war's done. The president's lost Cronkite. He's lost the people. That's how much power.
But I think that was all manipulated back then. It's just with the internet and with blockchain.
But my point is that they had such, the media had such a good, that you could trust it so much that when that happened, that was it controlled government the way it's supposed to. I mean, we didn't know it was behind the scenes
that was the idea. That was the best tool we had at the time.
Those are the watchers.
I also think
of them. It was the media, and we've lost that.
I think we'll also have to eventually address the administrative state too if we're really going to get this problem.
We should go to the next question, though, right?
Yeah, let's move on because I want to get to at least 3, but I don't know if we will because this next one's
Fast.
doozy.
We'll do it fast.
Yeah, this next one's a doozy. I hope you guys have read it.
I'd like to propose we
not.
reserve some time for Ross to share what he knows and can share comfortably about what it's like to be on the inside of the overall establishment of the press when you're not one of the people who's in the board. I'd like to hear a little bit about that.
I think we should have an interview with each of us individually as a separate show, just for the record. It would be great.
I mean, I wouldn't say anyone independent is on the inside. I mean,
right? No, I don't think you're on
I
the
think
inside.
it's the same as anybody else.
But at one point, it wasn't like this, right? Like, were you aware of the change when it happened and how fast it?
Well, you know, I used to work for CBS.
Right, I know.
For years, and yeah, that I mean, it's a very different world, and I would say that's a very much a top-down. You get your commands on what to talk about and what to do. And I honestly couldn't name the person who told my boss's boss, who would then tell me, because that's how far up it was. You know, you have like a program director, that's you get your instructions from, but then he's getting it from the general manager, then he's getting it from corporate, you know? We're based in San Francisco, so someone in New York would be telling the GM what to do, who would tell the program director what to do, who then tells everyone on air what to do.
And it's Chiefs all the way up.
Hey, you know, there's funny things there they do to make sure nobody does anything that they shouldn't. Like if somebody's getting laid off on radio, they actually tell them as soon as they get off air on their final show. And there's no 2 weeks or something where you have a time to be in front of a mic and you like, you know, you're just going to like burn it all down. Like you don't get that chance. That didn't happen to me. I actually left on good terms. But there's some people who just out of the blue, you know, hey, by the way, that's your last show. Pack up. It's that controlled. It's that in mind to make sure nothing goes out over those airwaves. It hits all those ears that they don't want people to hear.
It's amazing that I think people are so passive and unthinking.
Yeah, let's get on this next one. So speaking of media and different organizations and things, I'll just read this one off. Den.social is selected to be. This is a scenario. Is selected to be on a panel and pick the panel for Decentralized Social. You have an option to add 2 to 4 other decentralized social media companies to represent the space that you believe will do a good job and you have respect for, as it will reflect back on you and the space as a whole. You also get to choose any speaker from the company, so it's solely based on that company putting out a good. So it's not. Wait, hold on. So it's solely based on that company putting out a good product. Who would be speaking with you, Den.social, on the panel? So I'll put that in context to take the Den.social out and just say it's you putting the panel together is how to frame the question. And I'll go ahead and start this one out. I'll pick 2. I would have somebody from Mastodon, and I would probably have Kim.com on the panel. Mm-hmm. So what do you guys think about other organizations trying to do stuff like this?
I like contrast. It's like usually the better panels, if you're on a cryptocurrency panel, will have a banker on it or somebody who represents the traditional world, because it offers the opportunity to contrast the difference. Whereas if you're just all talking a bunch of people, and it is valuable.
See, and that's an interesting choice that usually gets made, like the quiet part. You know? Yeah,
but it's and either like there's Dave Rubin has a platform. It's not decentralized, but it has goals that are different than the other platforms. I can't remember the name of it. I don't know, and that's the other side too. I would love something like that were it ever possible, because I'm more interested in what are the goals and how are you pursuing the goals for what's the philosophical goal of your platform. And too many of the in my opinion, of the decentralized and the blockchain ones are more focused on number go up than anything. They're not actually focused on trying to solve what problem there is with the marketplace and competition and social media.
Right. So, like they don't want to have the metaphor reframed quite yet. They don't see the utility.
Yeah. So anyway, but I think there are a lot of good products out there though. I mean,
yeah, I would definitely have like both Steemit and Hive on, right? Because they
does
have
Steemit still exist?
Yeah. So like Steem. I mentioned Twitch earlier. Like there's these communities that are isolated from each other. It'd be great actually to get them all on a show. And I know the question specifically kind of wants us to give an opinion about how the space should be represented on a panel. I try to check my opinions at the door whenever I'm putting a panel together, so I don't know if I can really do that accurately. But
It's
I
hard.
see as like Twitch is kind of the BSV crowd, from what I understand. Steemit is basically
EOS,
Tron.
right?
I thought Steemit was bought
Wait.
by Justin Sun.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, and
yeah,
so
that's
that's
right.
like a Tron community. And then
Oh,
there's
man.
Hive, which got pissed off at Tron and I guess Binance for manipulating the votes in what was supposed to be a DAO, using the funds that were allegedly using the funds that were stored in the exchange as leverage for
Again,
voting.
so many losses. I mean, they ruined the perfect opportunity for torrent. It's like
Yeah.
when and this is maybe less social media stuff, but it's a perfect example of what can happen when people aren't paying attention to the fundamentals. That if you have Justin Sun going in and buying torrent, I mean, we talked to people on their way out because we're like, man, torrent was a perfect opportunity to model with crypto, where you would reward people literally for seeding a file.
That's why I aped into it in the beginning, you know? In the very beginning, I was like, oh, yeah, that's an obvious win. And I grabbed some, and then all of a sudden I see all of these airdrops going on everywhere. And I'm like, stop giving away my bags. They're just going to sell them. So, yeah, it's interesting. I won't go on too much longer. I'm sorry. I'm just like...
Digital Food says that the media was never trustworthy. It's a boomer idea. They weren't, but they were trusted. And I think they've lost that trust. Is my
I think that might be a good thing, though.
And Maz says that integrity can be bought.
Yeah, it's truth. Yeah.
I would, for my panel, I would do, I think, Den, and then individuals that are on more centralized platforms like Rogan or like Crowder, kind of a more independent media news source. Whether it's like I think Rogan's really good because it's an hour and a half, 2 hour podcast, so it's definitely social. But then they do hit on news and serious issues, and then Den to kind of like Facebook, or to show the complete contrast. And what makes, because basically I think if you're doing that panel, you're just creating a bubble for people to talk about, pat each other on the back. And, but I think it's much more dramatic to show the difference, to literally, like you said, to be a comparison. And because it's like when things happened in Canada. It's so huge when you can see it. So to have a fully centralized, 100% in control, fake fact checkers, and then like an independent individual kind of pushing the envelope on a centralized platform like Rogan or someone on YouTube, and then to have a fully decentralized social media platform, I think that's the best.
That'd be a cool one. That'd be pretty neat.
The contrast is always good in shows. You would get one more, get the third question in, or no?
Yeah, we can.
I'd like to take a whack at this one too, actually. I got
sorry, I didn't. Yeah.
NFT, PFP community projects is where I would start, and I would bring on Lost Socks, and which I have to fair and full disclose, I have two of them, and they're actually really fucking cool. So Lost Socks. They actually have a legitimate project that has a really good plan and a very clear roadmap that sort of paints a picture about how they're going to build this thing. If they can do what they say they can do, then it will be nothing short of astounding because of how well they've executed so far. Like they're brilliant, actually fun to be a part of. The other would probably be something like the original NFT creator of CryptoPunks. I'd put that in the mix with you guys. And probably round out the panel with somebody from mainstream media who would probably most likely have been directly responsible for any instructions they received from the government about censorship.
That'd be good.
Greg wants to start a fight. That's great.
No,
that's great.
I think I want to watch what happens when the future of community building in virtual spaces collides with somebody who can't even understand the point of Web 2 well enough to use it in a way that isn't toxic.
Yeah. His
And-
page do not, by the way.
Right. Like a
Thanks for the
professional,
segue.
I'm fucking everything up person with all the people building so far from them that they won't even be able to understand it.
Thanks for the
It'll be
segue, because
amazing.
the next question is about Web 2. And so we'll hurry up and meet that too. I wanted to say I didn't mention the previous
maybe Russell
question was posed by Denizen Cryptocurrency, so thank you for that.
I think we can get through the next two.
Okay, let's do it. Jacob Wayne has a question. Do you think Web 2 social media platforms will try to appear decentralized to compete with Web 3? I imagine they'll start adopting crypto to appeal to the masses, but I'm sure it will be a closed system for each platform.
Yeah, you
I'm
can look at
thinking-
Facebook and what they do with
Yep,
we're
there you
doing
go.
Libra. It's like,
Yep.
And now with how crypto and just decentralization is blowing up. I'm sure everyone's gonna try to jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah. I actually watched a really great video on this once where they talked about the way that people do this. Like, if you watch these stories we talked about, they're talking about digital currency. They're talking about central bank digital currency. They mentioned digital assets. You may have even recently heard the word digital asset related services or something like that as a regulatory framework for everybody who touches a blockchain with anything that can interact with it other than read it. Like there's just some weird frameworks that all the people who thought up, the super functional AML system we have, they're coming up with new roles for compliance officers as we speak. And we have to have a really strong counter answer, I think.
Okay, I have two answers. It's already happening. Obviously, Facebook. You could look at the Reddit. I can't remember what they called it, but their contest to build a cryptocurrency on top of.
Well, they had the Red coin
Reddit.
before. That was
Yeah.
I always had that, but now
Yeah.
I logged into Reddit the other day and they wanted me to buy some of that new coin.
I looked
Yeah.
into that Red coin because you mentioned it before. I think it was in parallel by somebody else, and it was just named that.
Yeah, that was not
I don't
Reddit.
think it was them.
Yeah, they put together this contest, or not contest, it was supposed to be crypto projects come and tell us how you could improve Reddit with crypto, and it was all BS. But the meme of it, literally, and this is the perfect meme for it, is the Steve Buscemi meme that has him with the skateboard and with the shirt that says Rock Band on it, and he says, "Hey, fellow cryptos." That's literally what they are already doing. That's it, right?
Yeah,
So,
they're just going to put a sticker on it. Like,
Yeah.
if you've got a product out there, you don't want to compete. You just want to make it look the same so people will buy yours.
Mhm.
So you go to the store and you buy some
It's-
PAL stickers and you write Web3 on it and you go, PAL.
Yeah.
Now it's Web3. But it's
Yeah,
not.
this
It's
could be
not
the
gonna
saddest thing on the face of the planet for the most part, right? Like we're gonna watch people just try to slap the label on it. Dude,
And you know what?
dogfood.com or whatever.
Maybe this is a half-baked idea, but maybe that's what the SEC should be looking out for, is people making fake Web3 companies to get people to invest in them.
Yeah.
That
That's
would be a good
lie.
thing for them to do. They could have saved a lot of people from, like, people would be able to actually use, without having to Google everything they did before they did it, Binance Chain.
The next two
Yeah.
questions are only one vote
You can
apart.
just explore it freely.
yes, we
Yes,
can
let's-
try to do them.
Let's see. We've got Mladezi has a question. What do you expect the decentralized or blockchain social media platforms gaining market timeline is going to look like? We're in that timeline right now. What gaining market share and becoming more mainstream, what's that going to look like? I think it's going to be crazy. I don't know what it's going to look like. I just think that it's important to make it inclusive.
It'll probably be kicked off with buy offers from actual old school ones.
Yeah, and I think that the acceleration of the timeline is because of just what's going on around us. I mean, if you look at, keep going back to Canada and just it kicked things up a notch, like a couple of years, because so many people are like, "What the hell? This can happen in my country. This can happen.
Yeah.
I mean, if it happened there, it can happen here. How can I protect myself? How can we not have this happen?"
Yeah.
So
Right.
people, I think the acceleration will be because of the legacy system. I think they're going to keep shooting themselves in the foot, and I think it's just going to go faster and faster.
Well, it's seriously unraveling right now, kind of.
Yeah.
My answer is that it's going to be remarkably fast, but for people who are in crypto, it is not going to be fast enough in the slightest. Everybody's like, it's way too slow, way too, anybody who's in a crypto project, everything takes way too long, but it's still going to be fast historically speaking. So.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
This is for everybody who didn't get to go through the early '90s. This is going to be fun.
DAOs.
Yeah, DAOs, and and I'll go. Let's read Josh O's question because we can answer that in the same breath. We can bring back the lightning round since we're up against time.
Yes.
We can go a little long. I'm cool today if you guys want to.
So
dead out of time.
Josh O, yeah, we're dead out of time. Lightning round. Last question. Do you think the big platforms will worry about losing some market share with the rise of decentralized platforms? Thanks. And my really response to this and the prior question, and maybe one of the other ones, is if you're doing this, if you're making a Web3 thing of any type that's going to compete with legacy, DAOify. Make a functional DAO that's well thought out, that is not going to be these companies are going to buy out DAOs, or they're going to try to plan for that. Plan for companies that want to aggressively buy you out, and form your DAO to either resist or to make the best out of it. That's my lightning.
Yeah, okay.
I would say if you want to do this right, make sure that you make a clear decision between federation and strong centralized stewardship by governance right at the beginning. Like, just sort of expanding on what Dave was saying. Like, if we want to do it one way, we can do it one way. If we want to do it another, we can do it another. Federated servers work well. Like, there are a lot of solutions, and there's a lot of solution space that's unexplored. There is so much room to discover the answer to that question better than any of us can answer right now. Still,
I think definitely the answer is definitely yes. They do worry. I think it's very obvious that they worry because of how they kind of always try to nip it in the bud. As soon as something starts to take shape or gain traction, they hit it with everything they got. I mean, and you can look at it under the guise of like what was it? The one that they shut down the servers.
Plenty of them.
Oh, Parler.
Yeah, I mean, that was starting to get. I had friends that were, doing their Facebook posts. I'm over on Parler. It started to get some traction, and they hit it with everything they had.
Well, they didn't see it coming either. They're totally unprepared for that shit.
Honestly,
Infinity Chan.
This is lightning round, I know, but they hit. What's weird is they hit that social media site the same way that they hit Russia, with like companies who have power because they're the legacy centralized company that controls your value.
Can I give you a perfect example? A lot of people don't know about that. The I believe it was the manifesto of, I think, the New Zealand shooter was posted to Infinity Chan, and therefore it was taken down radically fast. And yet it was posted prior. He didn't actually post it there. I think he posted it to Instagram. And somebody copied it from Instagram, put it on Infinity. Instagram's still up, but Infinity Chan is gone. Why is that? That's kind of weird, right?
Well,
anyway.
I mean, these people are also coming from a tradition of like pretty much turning the keys to the free, awesome pre-monetization kingdoms they created to the people who studied Bernays for a living, right? Like, it's a really subtle propaganda engine that works kind of in a free, markety, hard to connect way.
Yeah.
All you need is a fact-checking foundation,
Yes.
which is a nonprofit, by the way, if you want to make one.
Yeah.
Right. Like you can go out and join the party.
So you want to cut out?
Yeah, I think so.
We're not very good at lighting.
I wanted to answer Angel Breaker's question, but we don't have time. We can sidebar on that. But that is something that Ben is doing. You know what? Let's do our closings, and I'll talk to the next question we didn't get to on my closing statement. So that's the show for today. Let's talk about what we're doing individually and what's coming up. With Den, we are planning this year to have native video support in our platform. We just added chat, which is amazing. We're going to talk about that today on the governance call at 3. So we got chat rooms and stuff, which is, we've never been able to converse as freely as we can now, and we're just making it easier. But that's what I'll say. Come check us out in the Gov call. There's a lot of talk about on Den itself. If you're interested in this conversation, there's literally a DAO governance call for this kind of thing that you can jump into. You're invited to join that DAO. You're invited to help us make decisions and make the platform exactly what it needs to be or better. And that is at 3 p.m. Eastern every Thursday that we do that. So there's my update for den.social. And Greg, what's going on with Rivet right now?
Rivet is basically just into phase 3 of our Cardinal rollout. So as of today, when you create a Rivet account or you're using a Rivet account for any reason, unless you go into the dashboard and change it, you are running on Cardinal on mainnets. And so far, basically what we've seen is more promising than we could have imagined in terms of stability and our ability to meet our uptime capabilities that we're trying to hit. It's like we're going to aim for something bigger than 99.95 using some aggregates across different Amazon service regions so that we can actually get a little bit better than Amazon itself if we do the numbers right.
That's cool. That's good to hear.
Like it's going to be stable as fuck, and it's not hard to do, which is super cool. So
winning combination.
Yeah.
Sean, what's up over in your corner?
I do want to really quickly
sorry.
call everybody to go actually pay attention to some of these crypto issues right now. Now is a really unique time. We're going to have a period where we can really influence the way this ecosystem is shaped. Like, you don't have to not defend what you care about just because it feels like people are steamrolling it. Go be a part of the conversation and have a voice in it, because it's going to get decided one way or the other.
Absolutely. And seconded, 100%. Sean, what's up over in your corner of the window there?
I've been kind of checking out more crypto games and blockchain games. I think it's a really exciting part of the space. I think it's blown up so much this past year, and it's accomplished so much that the things we wanted to do with banking the unbanked and bringing value to the poorest people in the world. It just still blows my mind that video games are the ones that did that. It's really, really cool. But I think that the industry, the actual video game industry, which makes more money now than the music industry and the film industry combined, they're getting the wake-up call, and I don't think they're going to fight against it as much as I thought they would when it comes to blockchain and gamers owning their own items and being able to trade. I don't think they're going to try to hold on to those nickels and dimes and pennies
That's
like
good
I
to
thought
hear.
they were going to. So I've been kind of checking those out. The games are getting so much better. When it comes to graphics, and when I'm looking at the teams, I'm seeing like big names from the video game industry that are now seeing the value in it and coming over to crypto, which I think is really exciting. Tomorrow, every Friday, we got the Crypto Rewind, where we talk about the news from the week, and Greg is going to finally be on the show tomorrow. Looking forward to that. That's about it for me.
All right. That's good to hear that the gamers are coming around too, because I know it seemed like there was a push to make all gamers anti-crypto for some reason. I don't know. So it's good to hear that update on that. Joe, what's going on with Dragonchain over in your world?
There's a lot going on. We're still working on a couple of things with the core platform that will hopefully they'll be noticeable to us who are building things, but maybe no one else will care. And there is there's an article that just was published on Cointelegraph that kind of summarizes my belief in behavior markets as a key solution to some of the issues with manipulation that are, especially in governance. That's where I kind of framed it, but it's kind of everywhere. It's in anything that would be that would matter. I guess the base theory on that is that, in my opinion, that a marketplace is always going to be a much more efficient way to get to the best answer, depending on how you define it, than any machine learning, AI, or central authority will be. So whether it's how do we select a leader, how do we decide on an issue, it's better to use a market there, because you can effectively, for one thing, it can be transparent. But
don't let me tell you, let 1,000 flowers bloom, because people aren't passive. They're problem solvers. Right? Let 1,000 problem solvers.
It's like if you make a market, then it's going to attract the people and say, well, if these are, and that's the thing that to answer a lot of what we had today with the social media platforms, the key is to define that behavior. What is the behavior that you desire? It is, essentially to be truthful, to build a good reputation, to be to provide better, more exciting content that people want to see. That's what it should be. So anyway.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you again to all of our hosts. Very valuable brains that you've got in your brain pans over there. We need these conversations every week, or at least I do. I hope everyone else can agree. And also, as a reminder, make sure that you join the WBRT layer in Den so that you can ask questions like this that we answer today and every week. Next week's theme is going to be future NFT use cases. And that was nominated by, let's see if I can butcher this name correctly, Sebedingus, I think is the proposer for that one. So that's awesome. Shout out to Sticky DAO. Speaking of DAOs, which, all the stuff Joe was just talking about that we've baked into Den, they see it. They see like the real unique attributes of and the usability for normal average people. And I think, just to add one more little nugget, is I think that one of the most important things that we can do, and speaking about den.social right now, is continue to do what we've been doing, which is thinking about people who don't care about crypto or have been told that they don't care about crypto, and making it not about that and open to the average human, so that there's a lot of blockchain social media attempts. I don't see many of them attracting the average person. I see it being overloaded with crypto people, and I think that is difficult to start any sort of inclusive platform with. You gotta invite the people you don't agree with, right?
Right. It's the temple of the Holy Grail, and the social media network is in the other side of this gauntlet. Like, enjoy ducking the blades with all these crypto talkers.
Yes.
So share this episode. The more you share it, the more the hosts and the topic contributors will get. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next week for the NFT talk. Thanks again, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Liberty is not a pill that makes men angels. What it does do is limit the extent to which evil can be expressed in the world.